The next speaker to the stage is Raelene Beale. Raelene's the CEO of the Central Australian Remote Health Development Service, CARHDS, and Raelene's going to talk about Aboriginal Health Practitioner, professional development needs and how we can support the sector.
Thanks, everyone. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, past, present and future, whose land we meet today. Just to give you some background, I actually do presentation skills and I'm so nervous I cannot believe it, but when you know about a third of the audience, it's quite daunting. So thank you, AMSANT, for the invitation for CARHDS to come along. I'd also like to acknowledge the CARHDS board members who are here today and also the member organisations who actually own the company. I notice that our employees are here too, so thank you for coming to support me, and NTGP, who we're in partnership with, so just acknowledging those people who have helped our little journey. Right. I want to start at the beginning, let's start at the very beginning. And it's a cliched song, but what I guess our life intersects with the history that you heard this morning with the establishment of AMSs in the Territory. So we were actually developed to support the training of Aboriginal health workers and practitioners at the time that the AMSs in Tennant Creek and in Alice Springs were established. We've been around a long time and we've been a registered training organisation since 2003. Let me just take you through some of the ways that we support Aboriginal health workers, and just to let people know that before you become a health practitioner, often your history has been an Aboriginal health worker, so many and varied pathways. I just want to let people know about the Cert 2, the training packages. So we only have 2 qualifications. We're not the Mack truck of the registered training organisations. We're the little GXL Land Cruiser who can turn pretty quickly, be flexible and be innovative. We only do 2 qualifications, and they are the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Primary Healthcare Certificates 2 to 4 and the Certificate 4 in Training and Assessment. So we are small yet significant. We usually like to start in remote communities with a Cert 2. And that's because the LNN component is pretty well embedded in those training packages, and we can work with people to become confident and competent relatively quickly out in remote communities. We're also going to be working with another small RTO who offer the VETIS, or VET in schools, a lot of acronyms. I was very new to this job and I think I'm getting them all now, but Connect and Grow is a Queensland organisation who, like us, only offer limited qualifications but like to do it very well. So we're looking in the future at doing some work in schools as well. Some of the amazing facts, I'm not going to go through them all because we're a bit short on time, but primarily we'd like to encourage people who are attached to a medical or a health centre, whether you're the driver or the handyman. This Cert 2 has been developed by Aboriginal people for Aboriginal people working in a medical centre or a clinic to gain the strong foundations that you require to move through your career in those practices. So there are limited, in fact probably no clinical hours, and we cluster them into things like work, health and safety, infection control, lots of things that you need to know to be part of a workforce. The best example we've got at the moment is we're working with Lena Health with 10 people who are employed in their homelands, and we're doing the Cert 2 with those people. Just some units, I'm sure. Let's move along. After you do Cert 2, part of the pathway for us is to get as many people that are associated with your clinic trained into that Cert 2 with national qualifications. And then hopefully out of that, people will then have the confidence and be ready to go to the next step, which is a Cert 3. Now, I know there's some debate about whether you're in a workplace that the starting point is a Cert 3. However, for us in remote communities, Cert 2 is a most acceptable level to start with. Cert 3 is a little bit different. It's We would recommend that you needed to be employed by an actual clinic to be doing this, because there are some clinical hours attached to this, and it makes your life easier if you're attached to a clinic and you can actually get your logbook signed off whilst you're working. It is the commencement of the first part of supervised clinical practice, and it takes usually from 18 to 24 months to complete. This is the set of clusters. I put a chocolate bar there. It's probably not the right thing to do, is it? I'll move on. So the next step is then moving into the Cert 4. And the Cert 4 leads people to APRA registration. So it's a really crucial qualification to gain, and in fact, as Sharon and people have alluded to, we have a high number of Aboriginal health practitioners who are registered through this process. One of the things that I keep constantly hearing is there's some details about, is the fact that the numbers have dropped. And the Board of CARHDS is really encouraging me to also not just talk about the numbers, but to talk about the value that Aboriginal health practitioners and Aboriginal health workers have brought to the workforce. I think we celebrate 30 years of Aboriginal health workers next year. I was talking to Peter Panquet in Canberra, and I think it's about 30 years since the Aboriginal health workers had started. And it's not just the numbers, but it's also in those workforces the actual value that people can bring and people can learn from Aboriginal health workers and practitioners. So I guess we're putting people on notice. It's not just numbers, it's also the value and the significance that people will bring to that sort of work, to the workforce. These are the core units. I'm not going to go through them. There are, I think there are 17 now, or 14. I'll just go back. There are 17. No, actually, it's 14 and 7. I've got that wrong. So there is a huge number of clinical practice hours. So if you are attached to a clinic, it's much easier to achieve the practice hours whilst you're working rather than have to have a clinical placement. We at CARHDS have divided the elective stream into about 3 areas that we think employers were keen to advance Aboriginal health practitioners to, and there's some of the electives. Part of being an RTO is that you need to ask the employer and you need to ask the learner what are the things that you need, and certainly grief and loss has come up as one of the large ones, with people wanting to go back to country as their final sort of wishes. So that's become a really big unit. The way that we also can assist in professional development is if you are an Aboriginal health practitioner who's already registered, and in fact we open it to health workers as well, but you can actually do skill sets now. So they've been developed under the training packages, some skill sets that people can do as continuous professional development, and primarily things that are important that we've heard are renal skills, the aged care skills, the ear and hearing health, and chronic disease skill sets. So one of the ways that people can maintain their upskilling in the workplace is to come along and do those skill sets as well. They're Cert 4 levels. Some of them have got some diploma units in them. So what we do at CARHDS is we actually offer upskilling workshops. If you're already registered or you're working, we work with the community-controlled clinics, and we work with the Northern Territory Government clinics as well, and we provide a training calendar of workshops. In a year we do about probably 8. We try to align the workshop they do to a national unit of competence, so people are coming and gaining national qualifications. We're working on putting the skill sets on, in particular the renal. And we're also about to offer a Cert 4 in training and assessment, which is the other qualification that we're scoped to do. And we know that there's been a lot of debate around the Cert 4 in the general vet sector population, that people went out and got a Cert 4, and in fact there are variable times that you can do it in. Ours is going to go over 10 months, and we're really going to work with Aboriginal health practitioners and other Aboriginal people to really nail that education side, so they become dual professioned. We're finding that one of the gaps in RTOs, for example, like us, is that people may have the AHP qualification and they don't have the education. Now, we're doing that for a couple of reasons. One of them is that there is a gap, and when you've got 2 qualifications, you become much more employable. And also, CARHDS over years has actually reduced in size, and so we need people on the ground who can help deliver some of those qualifications for us. We're working in some targeted communities to upskill people. Internally, we've just one little thing that we're doing is that we've created a position called an Aboriginal Health Practitioner, Educator in Training, and again, we will mentor those people through that education side over 12 months. We're upskilling all our educators to do the literacy and language, and we're using external people for some of the work we're going to be doing in other states. Okay, I think that's about it for me. That's it. Oh, can I say one thing? The biggest challenge we've got is, number one, we get 1 year funding, and it's not enough. So, funding yearly.
Thanks, Raelene.